Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Rose. Karibuni sana for those that are here for the first time. I am happy that you stopped by, and for those that have been around, thanks for the support and for being here. And so today it's been 20 years. And lately I have been really thinking about my dad, and so I thought it would be nice record some memories of him here. Number one, my dad really loved education. I remember when we were in lower classes, like class 1 to class 3, he really was there. I mean, when we achieved something education-wise, he would applaud us. When we would be around him and were revising or just going through what we were doing in school, he didn't look like he was present, but he would appreciate when we would remember what we learned in school. Because I remember, especially during my time, my elder sister was like our home teacher. When you can't remember something, or you need to answer some questions and they are giving you problems, my sister would be there. But my dad would be there and would be monitoring what was going on. And so he would really encourage us and would want to know how we performed, compare it with our previous performance. He was so involved in our education life. I remember where from home to our school, it was quite a distance. And when when you're in lower primary, you go home at 1, from 12 to 1. And we used to have preps, these evening classes. And our home was very far from the school. My dad would sacrifice. At lunchtime, when we are off and we are done with school, he would come to the shopping center to wait for us, because home is far and it might be hot, or we would be fearful. He would come, wait for us, and take us home. Then if he had business back at the shopping center, he would go back after he has gotten us home. Yeah, there were no means of transport like motorbikes or bicycles. He would walk us home, and it would take us like between 30 to 1 hour, between 30 minutes to 1 hour. That was my dad. During preps, we used to go in for preps at 6:30 to 6:45, and then it would run up till 9 or 9:30 or sometimes 10. And my dad would wait for us at the shopping center. Just imagine. Sometimes I think about that and I'm like, he really sacrificed, and he would assure us, he would really give anything that we needed for us to be in school or to perform or to feel comfortable and to love education. Especially that point of applauding us and congratulating us when we achieved something, when we performed so well. He would be that I think made us love education. Number 2, my dad was an assuring parent. These things are so dear to me because I they give me good memories of my dad. You know, my dad would plainly tell us that we can have or achieve or become anything we wanted in life, even when there was nothing to back, not really to back, even when there was nothing to show for that. For example, when somebody tells that you can be anything you want, and for us, we loved education, but there was no signs that we would progress in education, if I would say that. But my dad would encourage and assure us that we can be whatever we wanted in life. I remember hearing him tell my mom that she can do anything. And that time, there was no sign of anyone fulfilling a desire when it comes to money or even dreaming of becoming or doing something because of the limitation of money. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Yes. And my dad, and he didn't used to say those things jokingly. It was in an assuring manner. You know, those things for a kid mean a lot. That you go forth, excel in your academics, you will go to whatever school you want, you will go to whatever college you want, you will become whatever you want. I think that's what a child needs, even when there is nothing that would show that you can go anywhere. But when a parent assures you that way, you do whatever it takes. And for sure, we worked hard. I think nothing bad as, even poverty did not, lack of resources. You know, sometimes we went to school when we looked pathetic, but that did not bar us. Why? Because there was a dad at home who assured us that do this time round. I mean, assume the poverty and the situation at hand and excel in education, then you can do whatever you want to do, or you can become whatever you want. Who doesn't appreciate such like a thing? I saw a dad who believed beyond all odds, and because of him we are what we are today. Another thing, my dad, I remember this one time when he was required to write our names down, our full names down. And so I remember him asking for our baptismal names. There was only a few. He could remember a few, but most of us, he couldn't remember our baptismal names, apart from a sister of mine who is called after his mom. Yes, that was my dad. And actually, during his last days, he had really forgotten us. He had forgotten our names. Every time you went to him and said, hi, how are you doing? He would ask you to remind him your name. This might get emotional, but let's see how much it will go. I don't know of anything as humiliating as that, your dad forgetting your name, and every time having to remind your dad of your name. But yeah, that's a memory. I remember that time. It is so vivid, it is so fresh in my mind. But there was our last born brother was born when my dad was in hospital, and as at that point my dad has forgotten our names, and he called our last born brother a nickname which he never forgot, even when he had forgotten about every other person, even when he had forgotten all of our names. He didn't forget that boy's name, you know. And during his very last days, he told us to tell our brother that he loved him so much. I come from a mainstream church, and there are protocols. In English, it's called liturgy. liturgy duties, we can have one person lead the service, but we can also have two people lead, one doing the liturgy part of the service and the other one now doing the preaching. And we usually have a service for children. In Kiswahili it's called Mikaeli na Watoto. So during this point in time, it was my sister, my immediate older sister, and I who were supposed to lead the liturgy side, the liturgy part of the service. And of course, my dad was supposed to teach us because he used to be a pastor a while ago, and he knew all about that. There are a lot of technicalities in that part. You're supposed to do things in a certain set way. And my dad, in our innocence, how you remember how kids forget. We could forget, and he would, after school, he would have us go through it and even do what we are supposed to do like a million times. And he taught us until we got it. I remember we sat on the same seat with my sis, and we led that thing so brilliantly. Because my dad taught us so well. And in connection to that, I remember we used to do hymns at home. Our church is so Kiswahili such that even our hymn books are written in Swahili. And so my dad would lead us in singing those songs so well. And I remember some nights we could sing into very late in the night, and it would be so brilliant. He had so great a voice. He would teach us those hymns at home. Great memories. We would sing, and he would teach us those hymns from scratch into knowing them to an extent that we could sing without reading from the book. Another one, I remember the kind of a song that my dad used to sing. He used to whistle, and he would whistle a certain hymn song, and we always sat at home eagerly waiting for my dad to come back. He would whistle the song out as he came home. We would hear him from so far, and everybody would run and wanted to greet him the first person. We were quite a number of us, and everyone would go greet my dad. It was a certain form of a greeting in my mother tongue, and daddy would answer the greetings. He would hug all of us. We would walk back home and really have a good time before we go to sleep. And I remember the last day when we got the news that my dad was sick. We had sat waiting to hear that whistle. I mean, we sat down waiting for him. We were seated outside, actually, outside the house, waiting, everybody keenly waiting to hear that whistling. And we didn't hear. And there was something, I mean, now it's when I understand that it was feeling weird even as we kept waiting and we waited. Later at around 10 is when people came and told us that my dad was not feeling well. And so that morning we went, said bye. Another memory, we always went to his room in the morning to bid him goodbye when we were going to school. That is, if we had not woken up. And that day it was during the holidays, and we had tuition. My sister, my immediate elder sister, and I. And so we went. He was okay. We went, said goodbye, and went to school. And so after school, we came home, did what we were supposed to do, and sat down now waiting for him. So that I remember that was the last time I saw him like being okay. The next time I saw my dad, he didn't even was in a position to remember our names. And so, yeah. Another memory of my dad. My first nephew. Our first nephew. Our first sister's son. My dad never got his name. I mean, he always called him his father's name. Not because he deliberately did it, but he always mistook the name. So he called our nephew his dad's name all the times. He didn't, I don't know whether he didn't know the difference or he just didn't get it. All the time. As I said, our shopping center was quite a distance, and because we were the kids at home, my dad, we were the only available people to be sent. So when you're sent and you take a while before you come back, my dad would come looking for us. Not to punish us, but to just establish what could have befallen us. That was him. You go somewhere, you're sent somewhere, and you take longer than expected, he would come looking for us. Next memory. When we would be given a task to do, especially by my mom, my dad would go do it with us. You understand? For example, if mom required us to go to the shamba, my dad would take a jembe and go with us to till the land. He led by example, I guess. He would have us work for like 30 or 40 minutes and tell us to go home. Or have us, all of us, even him, go home saying that we were tired. I mean, for him, that was enough time for us to work. Especially when we went to the shamba. It would take us so many days to till a very small piece of land, because my dad would have us work for a very short time, and then he would convince us that we were tired. Who wouldn't want a father like that? One who is your defender before your mom. Yes. I remember, I have a memory of the only one time my dad punished me. And it was because of a cousin of mine who lied that we had peed in water. So my dad was having his afternoon nap, and my cousin, we were doing bricks. And people were fetching. It was time to fetch water. Where this is how it happens, especially from where I come. You fetch water when it is hot, and then when it is cooler, when the sun is going down, now is when you're supposed to start making bricks. And so it was a bit hot, and people were fetching water. We were young, so nobody would expect us to fetch water. And so this cousin of mine was going to the shopping center, and the people who were fetching water were at the river at that moment. And my friend, who is I would say she's my niece, but we were of the same age, and so we hung out together almost all the time. We were not fetching water because we were young. And if we were given jerrycans to go and fetch water, it would amount to almost nothing. So he passes by, my cousin passes by, calls the people at the river and tells them that we have peed into the water that they were fetching, or that they had already fetched. So my dad hears this and comes out to inquire if truly we had done that. And we said we didn't. So he thought that we were lying and we were given a good beating. So that's the only one time I remember my dad beating me. I remember another thing. Our sister was going to college and she had not been in Nairobi, so she didn't know Nairobi so well. And it happened that my dad knew Nairobi quite well. So he sacrificed and offered to take his daughter to school and hang around for a whole 1 week showing her around. Isn't that what we call sacrifice? My dad, nephew, my dad was not working in Nairobi, neither was he staying in Nairobi. He just went for that period of 2 weeks to just be with his daughter, showing him around when he's not in class. Who wouldn't desire a daddy like that? That for me was intriguing. I was not a baby, but I was young. Yet, I saw that sacrifice. For me, it was something. It was a tick for a daddy. Yo. That's all that I had for today. I really miss my dad. But yeah, I have been thinking about him so much lately, and I thought, why not have it recorded that I can go back and listen to myself tell the world a few of the memories that I have of my dad. Yeah. Hope you've enjoyed hearing me talk about my daddy. It's been 20 years, but you never completely overcome a loss, I guess. A loss is a loss, even 100 years down the line. Sometimes I sit and think unconsciously that daddy would come home. I don't know. Yeah. That's all that I had for today before I become emotional here. So enjoy and have a good evening. Bye bye from me.